Hey guys, so we just had YCS Dortmound the past weekend, and as usual, I wanted to bring a breakdown of the most played hand traps and staples among the topping lists that were available. So before we continue, a huge thanks to my sponsors. If you need some Yu-Gi-Oh supplies, you can check them out using my discount code. So this was the breakdown of the top cut as tweeted by Konami, and so unsurprisingly, Ishizu Tearlaments was the dominant deck, with Flunder sticking around as it's the best anti-meta strategy at the moment. Now while Top Cut was top 64, I did not have access to all of the lists and was only able to analyze 24 lists actually for this video. Now a huge thanks to some of the best resources for getting topping lists, such as the Carlancho store on Facebook, Lundrady Valen's spreadsheet and his Discord, The Vault, and also Septa360 and his YouTube channel, so I'll make sure to link those below. Essentially, while I only have 24 of the 64 lists to work with, I would say that the breakdown of the list included more or less still represent what the overall top cut was, although of course not exact, but this breakdown will primarily be reflecting what was seen in Tearlaments basically, since the top cut was not very diverse. Now to provide an overview of hand traps, the median has now ballooned up to 11.5 hand traps in the main, which is one of the highest we've had, although keep in mind that the Kelbeck was considered as a hand trap because it technically is since it can bounce, but at the same time, for the most part, it's not really used as a hand trap, so the numbers are slightly inflated here. The Bestials are very popular right now as well, leading to an increase in hand trap counts. As for the side, the median was 3 hand traps, slightly down from the 4 in the last YCS at Pasadena, as it seems like people have transitioned hand traps more into the main deck. As for the going second board breakers, the median was 0.5 cards, which more or less was the same as the 0 cards in the last YCS a week ago. As for the side, there was a median of 6 board breakers, which is the same as YCS Pasadena as well. I would say that the play of Super Poly has gone down dramatically since the new iteration of Tearlaments, which used to be a guaranteed main deck 3 of, so that is one of the reasons for the fall in main deck board breakers. Now let's cover the most played hand traps as usual and get used to this, but we start with Bestial Magnamut. The best Bestial since it allows you to get another Bestial at the end phase, and at the moment it is the best target to summon with your Dark so that you can plus off of your opponent's Magmanut. Probably a card that will get limited at some point way down the line. Then we have the other Bestial in Druid's Worm, which has its own unique effect of being able to send a special summon monster to grave if it gets sent to the grave itself. Really strong card and has sharply increased in price lately. Then we have Kelbeck, which of course is essentially exclusive to Tearlaments for the most part. The bounce effect can definitely come up and catch some players by surprise, but as mentioned before, for the most part this card is used as mill fodder. Next we have the third Bestial and the lesser played one in Serenir, which did still see an increase in play since the last YCS, and also saw an increase in the number of Serenirs played, where several lists actually maxed this one out as well. Its second effect of Foolish is not really applicable in non-Bestial focused decks, and is just used as another DD Crow. Then we have Orange Herald, which of course is another primarily Ishizu tier exclusive. Interesting though, because despite there being 15 Ishizu tier lists included for this video, not every one of them played orange, and a good chunk actually side decked instead of main decking it. It is definitely strong, but can also be dead in many cases if you don't draw another fairy along with it, but it's nice that it's a tuner as it can help you lead into Barone plays if you don't have access to Diviner the Herald. Next we have Dimension Shifter, which of course Flunder is main decking it for sure, but a deck like Sprite are typically siding it instead. Really strong card against tiers and a lot of rogue strategies as well, which sort of makes it a rough time for rogue because they're either getting dominated by tiers or just getting screwed by the increasing play of Shifter. Then we have Cyframe Gear Gamma, which is only ever played in the side deck if played at all nowadays, can be strong against pretty much every strategy, and is also commonly seen in tiers to combat against Flunder, particularly against Shifter. Next we have Ghost Sister and Spooky Dogwood, which is only a side deck card that has become quite relevant lately because Tearlaments tend to have very long games, so you really do need a win con in time, particularly when you're likely going second. You can gain a lot of life points, but remember, if you do not gain life points from this effect, your life will be halved instead, so you have to make sure you chain to something that specials, otherwise this might backfire you in time. Then we have Cherries, which has been a decently popular side card for tiers in general, particularly since they also play Elf, which means they can just absolutely destroy Sprite if you see this against them. The LT reprint was timely, although Ash really deserved that spot. Lastly, we have Ghost Spell, which might see an uptick in play since it is very good in stopping tier fusion plays, but also the Medora Keldo Grave Shuffles, which are just all equally deadly. Skullmeister is another good option for this, and Meister is not once per turn either, but they both do have their pros and cons. On to the most played staples, we start with Triple Tactics Talents, which we saw at YCS Dortmund that it can be really clutch and can turn around a player's advantage single-handedly. We saw this at YCS Pasadena as well, and is a card that players are running even at just 1 because it's just so strong. Next, a card that we do not really want to see but is very common due to the time rules and tiers taking so long to finish games. Scattershot is there to burn for 500 when it's milled, and it's a very old card, so you're basically having to pay around $5 for a beat up card. Then we have Dark Ruler No More, which has seen a bit of an uptake since the last YCS with 4 lists main decking it. Still a very strong card, although tier players may prefer to use Forbidden Droplets instead because they want to stop Abyss Dweller. At the same time, with some lists using Mass Change 2 to turbo into Dark Law, rendering droplets useless, Dark Ruler might be nice to have as well. Next we have Lightning Storm, which is another card that has slowly been seeing increase in play, with evenly matched declining in play, at least at this point in time. Strong for back row and monsters, it allows for a bit more flexibility as a side card. Then we have Call by the Grave, which interestingly is sided more than in his main deck if played nowadays. I think for tiers at least, they typically side it especially against decks that play Shifter, and while a Saki one of, if you have it in hand, it's likely doing something that turn, and it is very versatile in today's game. Next we have Feather Duster, which while it does not have any restrictions, I guess it's not really a guaranteed card to have in your deck. Certainly no one would blame you if you did, but in a deck like tiers, they have at least Heartbeat available as well, and playing quick play forms of back row removal might be more beneficial. Speaking of quick play, we have Twin Twisters next, which is more popular than Cosmic Cyclone in tiers because the discard may end up being beneficial, such as dropping the Kelback or Agito as cost to start some mills. Flunder is popular right now as well, and trying to shotgun Twisters to try to snipe that Dreaming Town among their multiple back row is certainly important. Next we have Zombie World because it's the best side card against Flunder. Decks that play Zombie World are typically playing Necroworld Banshee as well, since if they mill it with Agito or Kelback, they can banish it to get into Zombie World. Even if Zombie World gets milled as well, you can always shuffle it back with Keldo or Medora to get Banshee live again. Can be strong against other strategies like Sword Soul or Dragon Link as well, although they're not played that much anymore. Then we have Cosmic Cyclone, which is still a great card to have, especially to banish the Sulek since that's just pesky to leave it around. Not as much Mystic Mind lately, but this is usually the preferable card to have against that strategy. Speaking of Mystic Mind, this was played in 6 lists with most main decking it. As mentioned already, it's not played as much this format, but still is a strong card and you need to respect it and have the proper outs in your deck. Alright guys, so that was it for the breakdown of the most played hand traps and staples at YCS Dortmund. Hope that was helpful. There's been a lot of YCS events lately, and the next one should be in San Jose and Costa Rica, both happening at the same time next weekend. As always, a big thanks to my Patreons, Eileen Dice Queen, Bolt Spider, Cybernetic, Brandon Jaren, Bearlord, Spooky Boogie, Stephen Phillips, and Chaz Blanks. As always, for supporting the channel, you guys are awesome. If you're interested in joining my Patreon, link down below. Take care guys.